In the TV show, when they start, they say Mahabharata. We should also have some intro, right, to our Mahabharata class. Okay, so I'm not sure what bits I've done and not done. So if I've said something already, just tell me. Then we'll go through that bit faster. So we did Karna, we did Drona, and we now have to come back to the Pandavas. Pandavas arrived in Hastinapur, very young. Well, teenagers. So not that young, actually. Already quite learned because they had lived in the forest with the rishis. And we see that even though they lived in the forest with the rishis, they were actually quite worldly smart, because Yudhishthira could already read the situation quite well. Bhim, today we'll talk about Bhim. Bhim is really an adorable character in the Mahabharata. And one of the beautiful things about the Mahabharata is that it doesn't sugarcoat anything. It doesn't make anyone seem better than they are. It doesn't make anyone seem worse than they are. It's Mahabharata is actually very good in showing us how each one of us has both good and bad qualities, and how the good qualities can really shine and really bring out beautiful consequences and make the person seem so respectable, affectionate, appreciated, and how the bad qualities just really are scars on the personality, which ruin the beauty that we see with the good qualities, and can or sometimes overshadow the good qualities. And this is interesting, that sometimes it can even overshadow. Like the good qualities no longer bear fruit, because the negativities can be so negative or so very numerous. So Bhim's good quality. When you read Bhim's character, there is not a more romantic guy on this planet. He is so incredibly romantic. But not only romantic, he is so affectionate to everyone, his siblings, his mother. So with Bhim, if he loves you, wow, he loves you. He literally carries people over mountains, literally, not metaphorically. Like, you tired? I'll carry you. You want water? He'll travel for a day to find the water. Draupadi wanted flowers. He searched for weeks till he found the flower she wanted. And he fought with Rakshasas and Yakshas and Gandharvas so that Draupadi could get that one flower. Like, what all he will do for you when he loves you. And if Bhim doesn't like you, he's as expressive in his not liking of people. And this is his downfall, because he really provokes Duryodhana. Like, Duryodhana already is not such a loving, affectionate person. He's not reasonable. He's not kind. And then you provoke him. Ugh. Like, you don't need to get on Duryodhana's bad side. His good side's already not so good. But Bhim definitely provoked Duryodhana. So even though we will say that the Pandavas are the side of Dharma and the Kauravas side of Dharma, nowhere in the Mahabharata do they say, like, the Pandavas are all good, except for Yudhishthira. They all have their flaws. And Bhim's flaw is that he maybe not bullied. Maybe bully is not quite the right word, but he was very harsh with how he spoke to Duryodhana, very unkind. And in fact, that statement that often gets said, blind man's son also blind, even though it's been attributed to Draupadi, it was Bhim that says it. Draupadi never said it. Bhim says it to Draupadi. It's an unkind thing to say about anyone, right? Like somebody's got a physical inability like blindness. Anyway, you don't criticize that. And then any child would feel so horrid about a parent's limitation. But so when Bhim doesn't like you, that's, like, it's so interesting because he can be so sensitive. Like, Draupadi's slightest need, Kunti's slightest pain, so sensitive he is to their need. And then so insensitive to Duryodhana and Dushashan. And so this is an interesting thing that we as human beings do. We have virtues and we only use them for certain people. So is it a virtue if we're only using them for certain people? It doesn't qualify as a virtue then. And the true glory of a virtue is that we can be able to do it to everyone. So something like blind man's son. No matter how much you dislike a person, that's an insensitive thing to say. Yeah. And also he said it at a point where it wasn't justified, right? They were in the house where there was optical illusions and anyone would have gotten fooled by that illusion. It wasn't that Duryodhana was specifically so dumb that he got fooled by the illusion. Anyone would have gotten fooled by that illusion. So then at that point to criticize somebody on such a point is definitely 100% insensitive. So this is why Bhim is such a lovable character in the Mahabharata, because we so totally get him. He can be so loving to the ones he's loving to, and he can be so cruel. And we know people like this. We are people like this. Why would we do this also is interesting, is because Bhim feels they deserve it. Right? They're not nice, they deserve to be treated badly. But then it's also interesting because Bhim treats Duryodhana this way, badly. Duryodhana behaves more badly. So literally, he invokes the worst out of Duryodhana. Maybe if Bhim didn't poke so much, Duryodhana wouldn't have. Maybe, but it was meant to be as per the writings of the Mahabharata, that they did what they did and it happened as it happened. But definitely, so the 5 Pandavas move into the palace and everyone's getting along well, except Bhim will make these comments every now and then about how Duryodhana's not as skillful or not as popular or not as, and the thing was that Bhim used the mace and Duryodhana also used the mace, and so they were always paired together. So it became more than Duryodhana versus Yudhishthira, it became Duryodhana versus Bhim. They were the two that clashed. And then they have the same strengths because the Thrashtra was blessed that he would have the strength of 1,000 elephants, and his children would have the strength of 1,000 elephants. So Duryodhana is very strong. Bhim is very strong. And this is interesting. Like, Duryodhana could have been jealous that Yudhishthira was so wise and noble and so patient and so kind. Duryodhana could have been jealous that Arjuna was such a great archer and, so good looking, and all the girls were constantly running after him, apparently. Literally, physically running after him. And Nakula, of course, they hid, so they couldn't run after Nakula. But he wasn't. He wasn't jealous of Arjuna. He wasn't jealous of Yudhishthira. Who was he jealous of? Bhim. Why? Because they both strong. They both use the mace. They both emotional, highly, highly emotional. The gada, like what Hanumanji carries. Mace is the gada. That was the weapon of choice for both of them. So the two of them really knocked. So very early on we're like within a year of the Pandavas coming to the forest, Duryodhana is like, enough is enough. We have to get rid of Bhim. And get rid of Bhim means kill him. Like, so it's very drastic. Somebody says irritating things to you, and then what's your solution? Let's kill him. Like, why isn't there a less mild version of what we do with people we don't like? Why are we so like extreme? Like even today, maybe not kill, although a lot of our movies and video games and all of that is literally kill, but it's this cancel culture. One person says one thing wrong and then cancel. Everybody unfollow them on social media. Nobody looks at their show anymore. Nobody talks about them. Nobody, it's a we such incredibly extreme people. And this is that pendulum swing we do. We go from being super good, very disciplined, waking up at join 5 a.m. club. It's quite a thing, this 5 a.m. club. And then fall off, sleep till, no, not 5 p.m. That's too late. 8, 9, no exercise. Everything goes. Whereas spiritual living is, and actually even dharma is, balance. So apparently the 5 a.m. club people went to join the 4 a.m. club people. And the 4 a.m. club people went to join the 3 a.m. club people. And then, the running joke in the 3 a.m. club is that I'm so tired. That's all they all say to each other. Why? Because they woke up at 3 a.m. Y'all haven't heard of these clubs? There's a 3 a.m. club. It's a WhatsApp group. People aspire to belong to it. We don't need to do anything so drastic, but whatever we do to be able to maintain it is far healthier and far more spiritual than doing this swinging from one to the other. And that's exactly what yoga is defined as: balance, samatvam. The less we swing, the better. And it's of course more characteristic of certain personality types, but we all do it to some extent. Okay, so Duryodhana gets very annoyed with Bhim. What do they decide to do? Kill him. How do they kill him? The best, easiest way to get to Bhim is food, because he's always eating. He loves eating. He can eat so much. So they said they make a pot of kheer for him. They don't give him a bowl of kheer. Please note, when you're giving Bhim kheer, you give him a whole pot. And they put poison in it. Once they put poison in it, he collapses. They tie him up and they throw him into the river. The river is infested with poisonous snakes. The snakes bite him because, he's fallen into their terrain. He's this huge guy who's fallen in, and when they bite him, the poison from the snakes act as an antidote to the poison that Duryodhana fed him. And so Bhim wakes up, finds that these snakes are biting him, and starts fighting with the snakes. The snakes realize this is no ordinary person. He is incredibly strong. They understand straight away that he is part Devata, and go to Vasuki, who is the king of snakes. And then this is what's incredible about the Mahabharata. This whole underwater world is described. It's like a heaven underwater where Vasuki and all the snakes hang out. And it's such a beautiful city. Like the description is so nice. And Bhim gets to go. Bhim goes to heaven, water heaven. They give him all these boons that he can now breathe underwater. And then they say, sorry, the snakes bit you. And as our compensation, we shall give you a boon and we'll give you more strength. And when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, Bhim doesn't need more strength. He's already breaking mountains, but now he gets blessed with even more strength from all the, so then Varuna also comes, I think, at some point, water devata. But mainly the discussion is with Vasuki. But this is also amazing that they recognize. They can recognize from meeting him that he is son of a devata, which he is. And the amazing thing is these worlds. So even later on in the Mahabharata, we have this incident where Arjuna goes up to the heavens to meet his father, and he visits, what's it called, where Indra lives? Swarg. And there's palaces, and there's chairs with gold, and there's dancing damsels, and there's musicians. And the other day, some kids asked me, do you believe in aliens? We have such an interesting notion of aliens. Yeah. We think they're these weird creatures who are going to attack Earth. But when you read Mahabharata and you read this world of heaven, or you read this world of underwater and this, where is this heaven? We don't know. Okay, the underwater world, it's like a whole world. It sounds too big to be part of that river. It's like the river lets you go into it, and then you're in this whole world. It's like a whole city. These must be parallel dimensions, different planets. Who knows? Do they exist? Apparently. And do we want to believe it, or is it fiction? So we say it's true. Who's we? Teachers of Shruti. Mahabharata is considered itihasa. It's considered part of Shruti. It's true. And how can we say this so confidently? Because we've all been deep sea diving. We haven't found this world. Vasuki never spoke to us. And we didn't get any boon. Why aren't we getting any boons? Like if all these amazing people exist. Well, firstly, it's Kali Yuga, so, we probably don't deserve any boons. But the rishis would be able to see using Divya Drishti. Now, this Divya Drishti is this incredible thing. It's physically described as this third eye sitting in the middle of our forehead, but that's not what it is. There's this incredible story of Eknath Maharaj, who was a great saint in Maharashtra, and he was writing the Ramayana in Marathi. So Tulsidasji wrote it in Audi, Kamban wrote it in Tamil, and Eknathji wrote it in Marathi. And a few other saints wrote it in different other languages. And so there's at least 12 to 15 Ramayans, the original being Valmiki's and still considered the authentic, well, it's the first source of the Ramayana. But this is what's beautiful about the story. So Eknathji would meditate. He would sing Ramchandraji's name, And then he would open his eyes and he would write. And as we know, Hanumanji loved the Ramayana immensely. And anyone talking on the Ramayana, Hanumanji would turn up to listen. Now, Eknathji is writing the Ramayana, but Hanumanji is, still so excited about the story being told that Hanumanji can be invisible. So again, we talk about superpowers. So Hanumanji is standing behind Eknath Maharaj as Eknath Maharaj is writing the Ramayana. So he's reading it as it's being written. You can imagine how much he loves the story, that he's literally watching it being written, and what happens next. Like, so much for us and our Netflix, what happened next. This was like true dedication to what happens next. Like, it's not even written yet. And they come to this part where Sita Ji is in Lanka sitting under the tree, and Sita Ji looks up and sees red flowers. And she says, they look like little bits of flame. If only one of them could fall on me and I could catch on fire, and that would end my misery. And this is exact dialogue as Eknathji is writing. Hanumanji becomes visible from his invisible form and says, no, that's wrong. The flowers were white. And so she couldn't have said that. Now you must remember, Hanumanji was there. He was sitting on the tree on which the flowers were, watching Sita Ji deal with Ravana. Eknathji bows down flat, Shashtang Namaskar. He's so happy to be seeing Hanumanji, like tears flowing down, like I get to write the Ramayana, I get to have your darshan. This is like such an incredible experience. And Hanumanji is like, never mind all that. Change what you wrote. The flowers are white. And Eknathji folds his hand and says, I can't change what I've written because I'm not making it up. Ramchandraji is showing it to me, and I'm writing what he's showing. This is Divya Drishti. Like, he's not making up the Ramayana. He's being shown the Ramayana. And so Hanumanji says, that may be very well, but I was there. The flowers were white. At this point, Eknathji is weeping because how do you say anything to Hanumanji, but he has to be true to what he is seeing because it's being shown by Ram. And then now, it's like you have to choose between Ram and Hanuman, and he can't bear it anymore. And so he puts his hands together and he says, Ma, help me. Because now, who else to call? And so Sita Ji actually appears because she's the only one that Hanumanji is going to now listen to, because Ramchandra Ji wasn't there, right? He was sitting on the shores of he was sitting in the cave in Kishkinda. And Eknathji says, you tell me what to write, I'll write it. To Sita Ji. And Sita Ji looks at Hanuman and says, whatever color the flower was, when I looked up, I saw red because I wanted it to be a flame of fire. So he will see what I saw. And so he writes, she looked up, she saw red flowers, and she said, if only one could fall on me as a flame of fire and burn me, so I can be put out of my agony of missing Ramchandraji. And the story wouldn't work if he changed the color, because it had to be true to what Sita Ji is feeling. Eknathji not only saw what she was seeing, but felt what she was feeling And that's how he wrote the Ramayana. And that's what we call Divya Drishti. It's the vision that the Lord wants us to see. So in our lives, it can be so many things. But for the rishis, when they're writing the scriptures, they saw what the Lord wanted them to see. So if it's written that there's an underground world somewhere in the rivers and oceans, it's there. And actually, if you think about it, in other cultures, it's there. There's Atlantis, Atlantica, something. Yeah. There's always parallels in other cultures. How? Just everyone has the same daydream? Can't be, right? Everyone's having it. There must be some source, some validity, some foundation on which it's all built. And even this Atlantic city is supposed to be incredible. Supposed to be far better than Earth. Bhim didn't want to come back. Bhim was hanging out with all the Vasukis and all the other Nagas and having a ball, getting lots of boons. They fed him again, of course. That's also, I was interesting how he's eating underwater. Like, how cool is that? What siddhis they had? What science was there? Like, it can't be what we are experiencing, right? Because we can't eat underwater. So it must be a different world where different rules apply and different experiences are felt. And of course, there's more than just our world. Okay, so these worlds exist because and will we see them? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we've already seen. It's not like we can actually remember previous lives. So Duryodhana thinks he's killed Bhim. Bhim's having a wonderful time, gets Boon to be even stronger, comes back. But this was interesting. Talk about mother's intuition. Everyone's gone back to the palace. And Kunti says, something's wrong with Bhim. Arjuna, Yudhishthira, Nakula, Sahadev. What could possibly go wrong to Bhim? He's fine. Ma, don't worry. Of all people, you worried about Bhim? No one can touch Bhim, Ma. Don't worry. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with Bhim. How amazing is this motherly intuition, huh? Because really, actually, nobody can do anything to Bhim except poison him, which they did, and threw him in the river. And it's been really late. So they come looking for Bhim. Around about that time, he comes out of the river. And fortunately, he remembers everything. He also gets given advice while he was down there. Him going down there turned out to be quite a blessing in disguise. I didn't get a chance to reread this chapter today, for which I apologize. So I'm not as clear on the details, but I think he also got the blessing that poison now won't poison him. Okay, never mind. He comes out of the river. He remembers he was poisoned. He remembers the whole thing. He tells them about his experience. And this is where we see Kunti's wisdom. Kunti says, don't say anything to anyone. Why? Why wouldn't we say anything to anyone? I mean, Bhishma would protect them, right? Because Kunti realized that, this is true. If you catch someone and you reprimand them, they just get sneakier on how they do things. So if Duryodhana could go as far as poison you, he's not going to stop. And if we complain and if he gets sneaky, it will be harder for us to figure out what he's trying to do. So don't tell anyone. This way, he'll think he got away with it and he won't get sneakier and we'll be able to protect ourselves. This is Kunti. Of course, Kunti has lived in a palace most of her life, and so she's very familiar with diplomacy and relationships and psychology. And so really it was Kunti who guided on what to do. As time went on, Duryodhana, this was an important event. They had like a graduation ceremony. So all of them had studied, all of them had learned very, very well, whatever skills they learned, and then they were being presented to the kingdom as worthy princes, and then the heir to the throne would be announced. This is ceremoniously, it used to be done. Actually, we didn't hear of it being done with the others, but maybe here because there's so many of them, right? There's 100 Kauravas and 5 Pandavas. Would make otherwise, there was just what 2 princes. You figured out who's who and what they're doing. There's a lot of them, so you had to kind of present them to the kingdom. So and they were very impressive. The presentation was very, very grand, and Arjuna's skills and Bhim's skills, and Bhim and Duryodhana fight, and it gets a bit too real. Every time Bhim and Duryodhana fights, it gets a bit too real. These two really want to kill each other. Others are fighting, it's play fighting and it's role playing, and but Bhim and Arjuna have this. And sometimes we're born with this one person. Yeah. And interesting, if we love just this one person, all our problems will get solved. But we can love everyone else, but this one person. For Bhim, that was Duryodhana. For Duryodhana, that was Bhim. For you, you figure out who it is and love them immediately, then your problems will end. Even recently, when we sit at the ladies' retreat, everyone is nice except this one person. People are generally nice, and then we have such a special place in our heart for that one person. It's so freeing when we let it go. So incredibly freeing when we let it go. Karna turns up at this graduation ceremony. When Karna walks in, he is fiercely determined to prove that he is better than Arjuna. Karna found his one person. They haven't met yet, but Karna found his one person. Arjuna didn't know Karna existed. Karna already hated Arjuna. Why? Because Arjuna got a lot of praise. Sometimes we're born with certain things. You'll notice people just sometimes they're born with it. Arjuna was born with praise. People constantly praised Arjuna till today. People constantly praised Arjuna. He was skilled, he was sincere, he was noble, he was disciplined, he was efficient. He was very loyal, incredibly loyal. He was good looking, he was popular, he was affectionate. And so probably everything Karna wanted, Arjuna had. And so even before meeting him, as much as Duryodhana hated Bhim, Karna hated Arjuna. They haven't even met yet. This is the first time they meet. It's just you hear. Stories of Arjuna had gone around the kingdom. Every princess had heard of Arjuna. In fact, when Arjuna turns up at where? Hastina? No, not where does he meet Subhadra? Mathura? No, Dwarka? Subhadra didn't live in Dwarka. She lived with her parents. It would have been Mathura only. I don't think it was Dwarka. Maybe I'm wrong. She went to Dwarka after she got married, when they went to exile. Even then, Subhadra had already heard stories of Arjuna. Everybody had heard stories of Arjuna. He was that well known. So Karna had heard stories of Arjuna and did not like him. So he walks into the ceremony challenging Arjuna specifically and saying, I will show you all I am better than Arjuna. This is supposed to be Arjuna's graduation. Karna walks in and says that, changes the whole mood. But Kunti is the one that suffers the most in this moment, because Kunti looks to see who it is that's walked in, and she sees the kavacha, the golden kavacha on his body and the golden kundala on his ears, and she recognizes him. Because how many babies are born with a kavacha and golden earrings? And Kunti faints. So Bollywood, no? So distracted, Karna walks in, challenges Arjuna. Suddenly Kunti faints, and so all attention goes to Kunti. Nurse is Raj, doctor is Yaj. And this, I don't quite understand why this happens. When Kunti regains her consciousness, she's about to tell everyone, that's my son. And Vidur stops her. The Pandavas would have lost face if she had said it. It would have also made Karna heir to the throne of Hastinapur instead of Yudhishthira, because he's the firstborn. Maybe that's why Vidur said it, because Yudhishthira was more befitting to be the king. Yudhishthira was born with the knowledge of how to rule. Yudhishthira was loved by one and all. But I'm not sure why Vidur. And it's never been explained. I've not heard it being explained why Vidur stops her. But at this point, Kunti was actually going to tell that that's my son. What a different story the Mahabharata would have been had Kunti said, that's my son. Vidur stops her. Vidur is, by all means, considered a saint. So he would have had a good reason. She respects it. So we'll also respect it, even if I don't completely understand it. I'm sure there was merit to it. And so Kripacharya, one of the other gurus, reminds them that a prince can only fight with a prince. This is the laws of that time. And so we don't know who you are. And so we can't allow you to fight. You know, we're trying to diffuse the situation, trying to use Duryodhana says he's obviously a Kshatriya. I told you, from the way he walked, you could tell. that he was Kshatriya material. And Duryodhana praises Karna so much. They've just met. But you do. Sometimes, just as you hate someone so much, you can just love someone so much for no reason. And I don't doubt that there was genuine affection between Duryodhana and Karna from both sides. I don't doubt that there would have been genuine affection. But unfortunately, Duryodhana is a little bit calculating. And so you have to look at his motive. What's his motive? Somebody says they can challenge Arjuna. I like this person. If he can actually beat Arjuna, all the better. Because Arjuna, like I said, he just got praised and praised and praised. And, like it's irritating. Why does everybody love him so much? Poor Duryodhana, he never got praised so much, except this day. On this day, Duryodhana gets praised a lot. So Duryodhana makes Karna king of one small little village and says now he is a king. He can fight with Arjuna. On the spot, Duryodhana gives him a king. Now, first and foremost, the kingdom wasn't Duryodhana's. How they allowed him to give away one whole village, I don't know. But he did. And the Dhritarashtra was sitting there. The Dhritarashtra didn't say anything. Bhishma sitting there. Bhishma didn't say anything. Nobody said anything. They just made like impulse decision. Here you go. You be king of this village. And from that day onwards, Karna also always introduces himself as king of that village. Karna took it very seriously. They fight, and Karna does really well. The fight gets ended because it's looking really bad that Karna is doing so well. Duryodhana is over the moon that somebody can shine as bright as Arjuna. Arjuna is so angry. So often it says that Arjuna is very vain, which he is. But if you think about how quickly Drona got angry when Drupada didn't give him charity. That's an insult, and look how insult he got it. Then if we go to Amba, that's an insult. Full on, proper, horrible, life-changing insult to get rejected from someone you love and then to be left alone. And look how she reacted. What am I looking at? How we react to insult. So Drona insulted Drupada. Horrible. Drona's reaction to that insult, his whole life spent wanting vengeance. Then Drona gets vengeance and insults Drupada. What is Drupada's reaction to insult? Do Havan get son who's going to kill Drona? Karna gets insulted several times over. And we see that it really molds his, it really feeds his insecurity. And it really feeds his bitterness. Insult will do that, right? Insult will make you bitter. Please note, what Karna did to Arjuna was an insult. Please note Arjuna's reaction, normal human reaction to insult. And then, now, this is also interesting about us. We get insulted once, we hold on to it for so long. Like, why can't we go to sleep, wake up next morning, clean slate? Okay, he insulted me yesterday. Today is a new day. Why don't we do that? Drona, Amba spent 2 whole lifetimes. Drona spent some 20 years. Arjuna also, till the day Karna dies, Arjuna never called Karna anything but Sutaputra. Insult. Never once did he use Karna or Radhaya, which were his names. He only ever said Sutaputra. Why? He insulted me. That's it now. For the rest of my life, I cannot like him. We see this so often, huh? Please note, we're seeing this in so many cases. They get insulted, done. The rest of my life, I'm angry with you. You've written off. Why are we so drastic? Really, why are we so drastic? So there's exceptions to this rule. Kunti. I told you, she's really worthy of our praise. Who was Kunti insulted by? First and foremost, Madhavi. What did she do? Bring up Madhavi's children. You know, when Kunti used to be asked who's your favorite from the five, firstly, please, every parent, never answer this question. Even if you have a favorite, bite your tongue. Kunti would reply, Sahadev. That wasn't her son. It was Madhavi's son. Because she had told Madhavi, I will love them more than my children. When Madhavi was going to die on the pyre, of course, her only regret is, I won't bring up my kids. And she tells Kunti, I know you will bring them up well. That's why I can get onto this pyre, because I know, I trust completely that you will bring up my kids as well as you'll bring up your kids. And Madhavi and Kunti replies, I love them more. Madhavi has insulted Kunti, huh? Maybe not so intentionally, maybe a little bit here or there, but definitely. She didn't turn bitter. Zero revenge. She never took revenge on Madhavi. Ever. She even shared her mantra with Madhavi. Of course, Pandu requested it, but even then she could have denied Pandu. She was strong enough. She could say no. He would have accepted. Pandu respected her enough that he would have respected. But she shared her mantra with Kunti. She brought up Madhavi, she brought up the children. So yes, somebody insults us, we can react with such joy. But we can also react the way Kunti reacted. She gets insulted by Dhritarashtra and Gandharva royally. They tried to kill her kids. Like, hello, is there a bigger insult than that? We don't want you in the palace, we'll just kill you all. She serves Dhritarashtra and Gandharva because they both blindfolded, they cannot see. She actually serves them. Not they blindfolded, they can't see what I'm doing, I'll serve them and then I'll do this. No, she properly, sincerely, diligently. She even goes to forest with them to serve them in the forest. When they decide to take sannyas and go to the forest, they're still blind. She goes with them to serve them. Person like her is worthy of having children that are gods. They can't just be born to anyone. That's why even today when people say, why can't Krishna come now? Why can't God come as avatar? Who's he going to be born to, yeah? that woman has to be worthy of giving birth to a god. Kunti was. The other person, dealt with insult amazing, maybe not as beautifully as Kunti, maybe my biased, but I'll tell you all and then you all decide. Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira again. Wow, did he get insulted? Do you know how many people insulted him about that game of dice? And how useless he was for gambling, and how dare he call himself dharmic when he gambled? Till today, people say that about him. He just swallowed. And then, oh my gosh, Bhim, who loved Yudhishthira so much. Bhim used to say, Yudhishthira is my God. If Yudhishthira says stand, Bhim stands. If Yudhishthira says sit, Bhim sits. Of course, if Draupadi said it, he also did. If Arjuna said, he also did. If Kunti said, Bhim was very cute that way. But he would say, the person I love the most in the world is Yudhishthira. Bhim would say that. Yudhishthira would also say that about Bhim. Like bromance is taken to a whole new level with Yudhishthira and Bhim. Who insulted Yudhishthira the most? Bhim. Bhim and Draupadi. Draupadi less. Draupadi would insult and then praise. And then when Bhim insulted Yudhishthira, she'd praise Yudhishthira to Bhim and make Bhim even more angry. And then when Bhim wasn't there, she'd insult Yudhishthira to Arjuna. So she did insult, not that she didn't. I mean, husband, wife, which wife doesn't insult every now and then? But Bhim really did. Because Bhim couldn't bear seeing everyone suffering. And Yudhishthira cried a lot. Maybe Kunti also cried, but it's not written in the Mahabharata that she cried. Like when things went really bad in Kunti's life, it doesn't say she cried. She usually came up with a solution. She usually, what should I do now? And did it. Like Bhim was poisoned. She didn't cry. My son was poisoned. It was like, okay, he was poisoned. We still have to live in the palace. What's the best way to do this? Don't tell anyone. They get burnt. Well, they try. Duryodhana is going to try and burn them. They get sent to this house. Kunti thinks, what shall we do? Find an escape route. When they're in the forest, hide. She doesn't really cry. Maybe she cries. But it's not described that she goes into sorrow. Yeah. Whereas when they're in exile for 13 years, Yudhishthira cries. Bicharo Yudhishthira, though, he knew what was going to happen. So maybe he's crying because he knew what was going to happen. But it's like, y'all insulting me. Life is so tough. I'm trying to do my best here. And then he would cry. Like so many of us, right? But he wouldn't fight back. He would never insult. He would never hold it against them. He was still extremely affectionate to them. And of course, he was very strong in his own way because he'd go and sit and listen to satsang. That's the other thing he would do. To help himself feel better, he would just go and listen to satsang. And so when we see how Kunti handles things, there's a little bit, it comes across as stronger. Of course, we haven't met them. It's the way in which the story is written. It comes across as stronger. So how do we deal with insult is a large part of the Mahabharata, and it shows us how long it can last. There's dealing with insult and then the ramifications of it. So remember, Bhim insults Duryodhana. Duryodhana poisons Bhim. You can see straight away ramifications. Karna insults Arjuna. They can never be friends now. When Kshatriyas insult each other, it doesn't go down well. Think twice before insulting a Kshatriya. They don't take insult well. This is a vice of a Kshatriya. Kshatriya's glories are many and their vices are many. Vice, they don't take insult well. So how can we take insult well? Number one, is it true? You all know this, right? We've done it many times. Is it true? Whatever the insult is it true? Sometimes it's true. Let's say they tell me you being insensitive. Me, I'm being insensitive. Is it true? There'll be occasions when I've been insensitive. On this occasion, was I insensitive? Maybe, maybe not. Are there occasions when I'm insensitive? Definitely. Is it true? Yeah, to some extent. Then I don't like it. I don't like that it's true. That's why I'm feeling insulted, right? Why am I feeling insulted? I don't want to be this way. What you are telling of me, I don't want it to be true. So then make it not true. Because it's not you I shouldn't like. What is it that I don't like? I don't like being this way. So what should we do with insult? Don't be it. Don't be the thing that they have said about you. Insult's awesome. I remember I had just left the ashram and was working maybe 1 year, 18 months. There's this senior Swami in the ashram who's so sweet, so affectionate. He had met me when I was traveling with Guruji, and he was seeing me as a brahmacharini for the first time. And he was like this grandfather who was so proud of this little girl who was a brahmacharini. And he was asking me how things were. And then I don't know how it came up. And I think I said, I was surprised as how much I got insulted. And he said, "You're getting insulted?" And I thought it was going to be like, "Oh," and the next thing he said was, "Very good." I did not see that coming. "This is excellent." He went on about how good it was. I was like, oh. I'll never forget what he told me that day. Only those who actually care what you are will insult you. And it's true. Only if I really want you to be amazing will I tell you your fault. Maybe they don't want me to be amazing. Maybe they're just insulting me. But if I believe they care enough about me to tell me my fault, how nice is that, huh? He told me this very early in my journey. I have bowed down in gratitude to him so many times as I have lived my journey. Till today, somebody insults, I'll remember his face lighting up like a Christmas tree, saying, "Very good." I'll be like, "Okay, here we go again. Very good. Let's deal with this one now. Is it true? Do I do this? Oh no, I do." Chalo, tapas, more japa, more sadhana, more love, more surrender, more faith. I have to up my game. If it's not true, what does it matter? If they say or not. Right? It's like, then you have to go to Gurudev's story. You'll know Gurudev's story, Tapanji Maharaj. Gurudev washed Tapanji Maharaj's clothes. It comes in that movie, A Quest, which if y'all haven't seen is on YouTube now, please see it. It's an amazing movie. And then Tapanji, in the Himalayas, there's no lines to dry the clothes. So Gurudev put it on a bush. And Tapanji Maharaj took the kurta off the bush. There was a big hole in it. And he looked and he said, "Chinmaya." Okay, sorry. You tore my clothes. Mhm. And then, because we're not supposed to take Guru's name. So Gurudev was like, no, I didn't tear it. I was very careful on how I put it. And Tapanji Maharaj went on, you tore my clothes, you tore my clothes, and told everybody who came that day, he tore my clothes. And Gurudev was getting angrier and angrier and angrier each time he said it. And Gurudev packed his bag and said, I'm leaving. And then some other very senior Swami tells Gurudev, really, you're going to leave for such a small thing? If he says you tore your clothes and you didn't, does it matter? Does it matter? And then Gurudev thought, actually, he's my guru. If he wants to say I tore it, fine. Why am I going to leave the scriptures and run away when he teaches me such amazing things? So he goes back to Gurudev, Tapanji Maharaj, and he bows down. And Tapanji Maharaj says, when the whole world is a lie, you're going to hold on to this lie? So somebody insults. It's not true. It's not true, right? I checked. Very honestly, I checked. Is it true? The whole world's a lie. I'm going to hold on to this lie. If the whole world's a lie, such nicer lies to hold on to. And if it's true, then like my beautiful Swami whose face lit up, you should think, very good. This person loves me enough that they want me to improve. A large part of how we live our lives is how we react to insult. We can see it in every character of the Mahabharata. You know, when Arjuna finally finds out that Karna is his brother, he cries so much because he spent his whole life hating him. The thing is, sometimes we know the person's our brother and spend our whole life hating them. Yacha. What we do, huh? Silliness. Okay. Duryodhana made Karna a king in a day by saying a person should not be judged by their birth, but by their character. It was the most beautiful and profound thing that Duryodhana said. And on that day, the people of Hastinapur were so proud that Duryodhana was their prince. Karna was so grateful to be acknowledged by Duryodhana, and the two walked home hand in hand. And that day, a friendship was born, quite remarkable. Their friendship is actually quite remarkable. Karna will die for Duryodhana. No. Let me rephrase that. Karna did die for Duryodhana. Easy to say, I'll die for you. Karna actually dies for Duryodhana. Karna gives up his mother for Duryodhana. He gives up the 5 Pandavas as his brothers for Duryodhana. He gives up his wife and kids for Duryodhana. The friendship born that day is actually quite an amazing friendship. Sometimes I wonder what Duryodhana did to deserve such a friend. None of the Pandavas have such an amazing friend. Yeah, Krishna. Krishna's, yeah, you're right. Krishna, of course. There was a lot of matlab in their friendship. Duryodhana needed Karna. Karna needed Duryodhana. But even though there was matlab in their friendship, it was still an incredibly beautiful friendship. Yeah. How we can love someone we didn't know yesterday, and we can just love them so much. And then how we can hate someone we didn't know yesterday and hate them so much. Because Duryodhana and Karna walked back hand in hand. Arjuna walked behind them, furious. Neither Duryodhana or Arjuna knew Karna the day before. They had made lifelong friend and enemy. Just in one moment, huh? Some things meant to be, or do we create through our choices? That's the eternal question. Destined, or did we decide? Arjuna definitely decided to hate him. No one's destined to hate. You cannot. It's always a decision to hate. Maybe Duryodhana was destined to love, because love never dies. And so when we meet someone we loved before, we'll love them. Maybe that's what happened. We'll pause here for today. How to distinguish between objective criticism and someone's projection of their own fears on us, especially when it comes from a dear person. They don't resolve the fear in them, but constantly project it on us. What behavior is most appropriate? Behavior, I don't know what is most appropriate, but is it true is the question we have to ask. So if you are convinced that they are projecting it onto you, then it's not true. But you have to check, do we have this quality? And then what behavior to have, I don't know. But basically Mahabharata is teaching us, whatever you do, be ready for the consequences. For example, 10 years ago, when I scolded kids in the Balvihar, they came back the next class. Today, if you scold a kid in the Balvihar, they don't come back the next class. Be ready to face the consequences. So I'll still scold. I have to be true to who I am. Sometimes they don't come back. I have to accept. A lot of times they don't like me. That too, I'm willing to accept. So whatever it is you do, be willing to accept the consequence. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but how to know your situation. Any other questions? Yes. How did Krishna handle insult? Oh, he smiled. Yes, Krishna's smile is dangerous, but he would smile. Only once or twice did he react assertively. What was that dude that had to be split like that? What was his name? Yeah, that time Krishna wasn't very sweet. And Shishupal insulted Krishna 108 times in one sitting. So when Shishupal was born, the astrologer told his mother he was born deformed. Is that politically correct to say now? I don't know what's politically correct. He was born deformed. And the astrologer said, when this person carries him, the deformity will go away. And that's the person who will kill him. So Shishupal was related to Krishna. When Krishna came, the mother gave Shishupal to Krishna to carry. His deformities go away. That in itself is something, huh? If you are touched by Krishna, your deformities go away. So cool. And so the mother, of course, gets really scared because now she knows who's going to be the person who kills her son. And she says, please forgive him. Please don't kill him. And Krishna says, I will forgive him 1,008 times. So they're sitting in a court and Shishupal starts insulting. Shishupal was an interesting character. He drew cardboard hands and walked around with 4 hands so that he could look like Krishna. Yeah, he was really an interesting character. Krishna had this lotus. How did it have 108 petals? Well, Krishna knows because he's Krishna. And so he knew that the lotus had 108 petals. And he's Krishna. So, of course, he has lotuses lying around. And so Shishupal was insulting. And for every insult, Krishna plucked 1 petal. Went on for good 3 hours. That's how long Vishnu Sahasranam takes. At the end, when every petal was gone, Sudarshan Chakra was summoned and Shishupal was killed. But the entire time he was being insulted, he smiled. Even when Kamsa was insulting him, he smiled. Krishna played with insult. He played with it. Kamsa was insulting him, and what did he do? Went and found the dhobi, took Kamsa's clothes, went and got Chandan, smeared Chandan over. He wore Kamsa's clothes, to kill Kamsa. He took it from the dhobi. Krishna was so musty, so musty, so musty. And in between, he flirted with some girls. He bought some necklaces. He went touring around Mathura. The whole time, Kansa's insulting him. Made friends. Sent word to his parents that he's in town. He'll save them soon. Krishna's too cool with insult. When Duryodhana tries to jail Krishna just before the Mahabharata war. So Krishna shows Vishwarupa Darshan. Duryodhana, don't mess with me. This is who I am. He shows swing, full Vishwarupa Darshan. Duryodhana doesn't get it and tries to jail him after Vishwarupa Darshan. Krishna laughs. He literally laughs. Krishna laughed at insult. He smiled at insult. Entertainment for Krishna. Insult was entertainment for Krishna. You can't insult Krishna. You just can't insult him. It's like when a child insults a parent. The parent laughs, right? Except when the child's a teenager, small child. It's cute, it's adorable, it's forgivable, it's it's like it's water off a duck's back. That's our insults to Krishna. Water off a duck's back. You know, they say, people are saying, I don't believe in God. God's still looking after them. He doesn't wait for you to believe in him to look after you. What's insult to him, Yar? You're his child. But we can't compare ourselves to Krishna. In the Mahabharata, you won't compare yourself to Krishna. Krishna played as God, not as man. You want to know how to deal with insult, you have to see Ram's life. Ram played as man. Krishna played as God. What did Ram do with insult? Accepted. He didn't play, he didn't laugh, he didn't smile. Accepted. Only when needed, Varun Devata insulted him and didn't appear. He took his bow and arrow and said, I will dry up the entire ocean on this planet. Varun Devata appeared. When work needed to be done, Ram was incredibly efficient and showed anger. Showed anger. So if insult was given and it wasn't appropriate, he showed anger. Otherwise, he accepted insult. When the Dhobi insulted Sita, he sent Sita away. You can fault me, but don't let that ruin the kingdom. Insult was accepted. But my kingdom will not suffer because of my shortfall. So Sita was sent away. Unfair to Sita? She agreed. Please note, Sita agreed. Ram accepted. KK insulted. You're not fit to be the king. My Bharat should be the king. Ram said, of course your Bharat should be the king. I agree. Bharat was worthy of being king, so he could agree. It was truth. But when insult wasn't justified or caused adharma, Vishwamitra was being insulted, the Rakshasas threw blood on him. Ram threw that Marich 800 yojanas away, killed Subahu in a heartbeat, killed Taraka in a heartbeat. So insult was tolerated when it was to him. Insult was not tolerated when it was against Dharma. So even we are told, we are insulted. Listen, is it true? Our Guru is insulted. Do not tolerate. God is insulted. Do not tolerate. Parents are insulted. Do not tolerate. Insult to Dharma is not tolerated. Insult to us, it's okay la. We're not that great also. Better. Insult is better than praise sometimes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Harihi Om.